Hello, my name is Jess Pringle. I am making this video on behalf of WBHN or Wyandotte Behavioral Health Network. I'm going to be providing some basic information regarding the brain anatomy and functioning and how that relates to some of our behaviors and prior trauma. So with that being said, what I'd like to start with first is the basic unit of the brain, or the cells that make up the brain. These are specialized cells. They're called neurons. I'm going to draw a crude picture for you right now. And I think it is less important regarding what exactly makes up the neuron and more about its particular shape and function, okay? So I'm drawing a crude neuron here. If you'll take a look, your typical cell is circular, right? Neurons are actually elongated like this, and they actually butt up against other neurons almost like a handshake. So with that understood, you'll know that your brain is kind of a vast web or network of interconnecting pieces, yes, that where chemical and electrical signals are sent down these pathways, right? So there. Now you can feel free to Google your own information, but according to the internet, it takes anywhere from 60 to 254 days to develop a habit. So I think that there's a great deal of fluctuation on that number based on the complexity of the behavior you're trying to learn. So let's say, for example, I am trying to learn how to do small repair and fix this car, right? Now, I may time myself doing this task, and as I teach myself these skills and I research information online, I obviously get faster and faster at this particular task. Now, how complex is it to build a car? I would argue it's probably pretty complex. So it might take 254 days of consistently practicing in order to get good or develop the concept of something called muscle memory, right? I think it is important to remember that muscle memory is not actually your arm remembering how to tie the shoe or your body remembering how to ride the bike. It's actually your brain remembering that information, right? And that's because these pathways, I'm going to go back to my drawing here, these pathways have sent this information down consistently and repetitiously, yeah? It's done it over and over and over again until those neurons have actually changed shape to allow for information to travel quicker down those pathways. That's what we call the concept of neuroplasticity, right? How the neurons can actually change based on the skills that we practice, okay? So now that we have that firm foundation or understanding of the basic unit of the brain, I want to talk about some bigger pieces, okay? So I won't claim to be an expert on the human brain. I've only studied these three parts that I'm going to share with you right now, and their relation to each other and how it relates to behavior in general. But let's start with what I understand are the basics, okay? So I'm going to draw a brain here, and we're going to cover three parts. Okay, so here's my awesome brain here. It's like a big chicken nugget. We're going to talk about three parts, okay? We've got this part I'm circling in blue, this part I'm circling in green, and this part I'm circling in pink. And let me just do a quick little, let me just fact check myself in real time here. Yeah, okay. I think I'm right there. Excellent. Okay. So looking at my brain here, if you can imagine that this is the front part of the brain, okay? This is where my spine would connect, and here's the base of my brain, right? So this green, kind of hard to see there. But we've got three parts of the brain that we're going to discuss, which is this part right here, the frontal lobe, or the prefrontal cortex. We'll call it the PFC, okay? And then right here is our amygdala. This is our fight, flight, or freeze position. This is kind of our primordial brain. This is our instincts. okay, what warns us of danger. And then finally right here, this is our hippocampus, or our memory center, where all these experiences are stored, right? They go right there. Okay, so now that we've given you that baseline bit of information, let's go over their roles, okay? So the prefrontal cortex is responsible for problem solving and emotional regulation. So when you get upset and you start to feel your temper go up, and your prefrontal cortex might tell you, okay, now it's time to go for a run, or get a glass of water, talk it out, right? Problem solve your way out of the issue. It's currently trying to do its job while competing, okay, with the second part of the brain that we just discussed, which is your amygdala here, your fight, flight, or freeze portion of the brain, all right? So imagine, of course, if a wild animal were to approach you and yell at you or bark at you or do something along, you are going to immediately be conflicted between problem solving. Do I get up on top of this car? Do I call for help? And just fighting, freezing, or running, right? So these two portions of your brain are not in constant competition with each other, but during moments of feeling stressed, they will compete against each other, because both of them are trying to act as the primary driver for your decision making. Okay, so let's talk about this last piece of the brain, which is the hippocampus right here. Okay, this is the memory center of the brain. So when we have these experiences that cause a significant impact, they get stored there. And sometimes the brain will call those experiences out when we encounter something similar in the environment. So let's explain how that concept relates to behaviors and decision making, and what we may see from somebody who struggles with regulating their emotions. Okay, so let's take, for example, a kid. Well, let's call this kid Mark. Okay, Mark has a history of being yelled at by, it could be an abusive parent, it could be an abusive sibling or a member in the community. Let's say that Mark has some prior trauma with people yelling at him. Okay, Mark maybe has developed all types of habits to deal with people yelling at him. Some of them might be inappropriate, right? Running away from home, acting out through physical aggression, breaking property, right? Anything to either escape the situation or fight it head on. But either way, a survival technique for Mark, right? Now, to throw back to our previous discussion regarding the structure of a neuron, if we understand that if it takes 60 to 254 days to develop a habit, either good or bad, okay, we can now understand why Mark is going to have that gut reaction of either breaking property or elopement when faced with stressful incidents such as being yelled at, right? So if you're still with me, let's fast forward to present day with Mark, right? Mark is, he's walking down the street. He is not engaged in any inappropriate behavior when suddenly a pedestrian, a person in the community yells at Mark, maybe trying to warn him of upcoming traffic or, a dangerous event coming up. Mark's hippocampus is going to work together with his amygdala to draw similarities between this current event and the event that caused him trauma in the past. Okay? So, whereas it's completely appropriate for this member of the community to warn Mark, don't go over there. There's a landslide coming. It is also understandable that Mark may interpret that as something hostile, right? Mark has prior experience through neuroplasticity and consistency that when people yell, he is going to be abused, right? So if we can understand this concept, what we can then do is apply it to all different types of behaviors that we see. Behaviors that may seem bizarre to the people observing may serve a very primitive function for that client. in order to survive or avoid trauma, right? So if we can understand the concept of behaviors being developed over long periods of time through consistency and attempts of trying to make the environment safer, right? Combined with how the brain works in this triangle, right? If we can understand how these three things work in tandem, sometimes against or with each other, we can understand how difficult emotion regulation is. Okay, so what do we do about it, right? What do we do? How do we apply this information to help people develop better routines? Okay, so we start by reminding them that routines need to be based on success, consistency, and repetition. So we have to be able to win at what we're doing occasionally, okay? We have to be able to do it every day, and we have to do it the same way every day, right? We have to set up short-term goals that hit all three of those checkpoints, right? If we can do that, and the person we're trying to help has buy-in, they agree to this system, then they practice. And they do it every day. And they do it for 60 days. Or they do it for 100 days until they've come close enough to the level that they feel like they're seeing benefits. Our job, okay, the job of support, either natural, community, school-based, you're a parent, our job, once we've taught the skill, is to coach them, give them help, correct them when they make mistakes, make sure they're accountable, make sure they're practicing every day, making sure they understand how the brain works and how it operates, and the importance of having a routine and structure. I always like to tell the people that I service that your behaviors, they're not bad. They've served a purpose. They've served a purpose in helping you to survive in a difficult environment, to adapt, and to try best to take care of yourself as best you know how, despite the challenges. So these behaviors are not bad. They are just causing undue harm over time. So it's up to us to work together as a team to make sure that we teach healthy strategies, right? Okay. So this was an extremely rough take. I will work on collecting some sites and sources to make sure that the information is accurate. I might be able to flush out a little bit more as far as good examples. And I'll obviously work on a little bit of editing and stuff. I know we'll work together as a team on that. But okay, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.